Hey everybody, how are you doing? Good Friday evening. How was the week? I hope you had a good week. So to end on that, have a good to end the good week. We have today a very special guest with our new episode number 29 of the podcast, The Future of Web. Right. The idea for this podcast is primarily to educate people on Web3 technologies, and we get the metaverse experts, we get founders, investors, designers, developers, community people, everybody we've had on this podcast, and we will continue to do that. The idea is to have much more insightful discussions around new technologies. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. So my name is Alek, and I'm the founder of Animo Solution, which is a Web3 focused design and development agency. We're doing a lot of cool stuff in UI, UX, metaverses, apps, dApps, and a lot of other things. I also run a couple of other podcasts which are co-hosted. One is around tokenization, and one is around AI. So you can subscribe to my feed so that you get to know more about them. All right. So now coming to the guest. So we have a very special guest, Christian Glessner, who is a very highly respected speaker and thought leader with over 20 years of experience in technology and innovation. As an co founder of the innovation agency HoloLux, he specializes in creating cutting edge solutions for business, exploring virtual and augmented reality, right? And as well as other emerging technologies. With the specific focus on the metaverse, Christian simplifies complex technical concepts through dynamic and engaging presentations. His insights into the potential of the metaverse to transform industries and create new opportunities for growth and innovation have made him a sought after expert in the field. He's been recognized as a Microsoft MVP for over 14 years, showcasing his expertise and contributions to the technology community. In 2023, he was named one of the top 10 disruptive mixed reality leaders by Mirror Review. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and invite Christian. Hello, Christian. Thank you so much for coming in.
Hi. Yeah, I'm glad to be here
Thank you.
virtually.
Thank you. Oh, yes, virtually, It's actually funny, like Christian and I were just discussing that we're going to talk a lot about metaverse today, and yet we are using, standard Web2 platforms,
Yeah,
right?
that's true indeed. Next time we
Yeah.
meet in Microsoft Mesh, for example.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So let's it's a kind of a customary, before we deep dive into different topics that we're going to discuss today. Let's try to get to know you a little bit better. I mean, we are meeting for the first time, so thank you once again there for being, gracious enough to do it with me. So can you share a little bit about yourself? Something like which you haven't shared with others yet, something that you can openly share though.
Sure. So actually, I never wanted to go to the IT business or something like this. So when I was a teenager, I rather want to become a rock star, and I played a lot of drums and also in a band. Wasn't that bad, but I really found out that I could never be really world class in that. And it seems IT seems to be exactly my thing. And so somehow I combined the life of a rock star with IT because I really travel a lot around the world. Having sessions. I'm now just, I'm from Germany, like you mentioned. Now I'm in Bangkok. I will fly to from Bangkok here to Malaysia, to Kuala Lumpur, to Singapore, then over South Korea to USA. So I think I have I have pretty much that life what I imagined. So it was not my first wish of profession. Was IT business.
Yeah, so I think this IT business became your direction to give you that rockstar life. I mean, like even right now, as you mentioned, you are on a sort of a half world tour, right? Traveling to at least five, six
Yeah, so
countries in
I
this
call
tour.
it the I Love Mesh World Tour. Exactly. So somehow I combined that and I found out, that the rock stars of the next generation are actually, people working in that business, like Web3, blockchain. These are the rock stars from the future. So you can have
It, it,
both the
yes,
rock star life
absolutely,
and
and you're doing it, like you're like a living example of that, right? Fantastic. So, can you share about? I mean, okay, so we this is all about your traveling journey. What you always liked. So, can you share a little bit more about your professional journey? Like where did it start? I have gone through it. And it seems that you got into the spaces quite early in life. 3D
Yeah,
spaces, virtual worlds.
sure.
But how does it look from your side?
So now how I really started with this, I think maybe this
Yes.
is why I'm also so good at it. It started very early. My parents had a travel agency in Germany,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't really aware, but it seems they invested early in IT. So it was in the 80s some when they bought a IBM AS400, and as a kid I still remember very well that amber sparkling screens of an IBM AS400 and promising blinking cursor ready. And I was really fascinated as a kid when I stared for hours into that screens, and somehow I grew up between computers. And I always was fascinated about the concept of the of programming of the tabula rasa, to create something completely new out of nothing. So,
Mm-hmm.
and with that evolving of metaverse, spatial computing, however you called it these days, my childhood dream came much closer to reality because actually we really built virtual worlds. And I also smile a bit, there was in the past the theory that people thought the world is a plate and you can fall down.
Yes. Yeah.
It remembers me a little bit like the beginning if you build some virtual worlds and you forget a collider and people can fall down. So who knows if we not all live in a big virtual reality already?
Interesting. Yeah, so that's a very different way of looking at, then you have to become a little more philosophical, to try and create if there are any parallel worlds, where we are meeting in a different setup right now, as this moment. No, but it's interesting, when you mentioned about starting early. So I started designing virtual worlds in 2007. They were for broadcast. I traditionally worked in broadcast. So they were for broadcast industry, and then you're doing a lot of stuff there. But I Second Life, as a sort of a metaverse or a simulation, has been
Yeah,
there
it
for
was.
much beyond that, right? Early 2000. And it's surprising that nobody really, or I would say a lot of people knew about it, but not at the scale where people are aware today. What do you think could be the primary reason, why that happened?
Why the people do not really adopt it. So I think it has to do something with it. It was also the right hardware wasn't really there. It's also about hardware. The real advantage of metaverse or spatial computing, as we discussed a little bit before, the
Yeah.
terms change, but the things, let's say the content remains. Um, yeah, if you see this, you need to be immersed. This is really the big difference. 2D computer games, jumping with, playing that's not really new, but
Yeah.
having really the feeling that you are completely immersed. So I still remember if we had in our headquarter in Saarbrücken, we had a holodeck, very with a
Mm-hmm.
DK1 with Oculus DK1, and then we there was this still a famous demo is the blank. I think you go very high to rooftop of a skyscraper, and then
Mm-hmm.
you have to rescue a cat on a plank or something like this, and the people really get scared. They sometimes even crawl on the floor, and you would never see that happen if they watch a 2D screen. So it's the mixture between that virtual worlds and really being immersed. And the hardware is still evolving, and we now have a big moment because as Apple finally also go to that market, and many people hope that it will create, an iPhone moment for exactly that business.
Interesting. So before we go move forward in this, hold this thought, we have a question from Ashank. He says that, do you foresee that the creation of metaverse human species can get lost or prefer escaping into virtual worlds, kind of like how it was in the Matrix movie? Interesting question.
Yeah, Matrix was actually my favorite movie. It's still one of my
Yeah.
favorites. And
Yeah.
and if you watch really that movies these days, as I mentioned, actually you really will never know. uh, yeah, theoretically, it could happen. You don't know.
Interesting. Okay, so Ashang, you have your answer from Christian. You can have it. Theoretically, it's possible. Yes. So so I'm just watching Matrix Resurrections. I think probably second or the third time already,
Yeah,
and on Netflix.
Matrix is so true than ever. Because you see also AI in that movie very well,
Yes.
with Agent Smith. And if you see
Yes.
that movie and you see where we are now, it looks like we are in let's say in a baby step of this what we see there, because we have also AI agents, and we see now a lot more
Yeah.
of AI avatars, really powered by ChatGPT. And then we have on the other side all that metaverse topic evolving. So it's really interesting.
It's
I
going to
have
be
the
very
feeling.
crazy these days.
Yeah, I think it's getting hard for the science fiction authors because all that stuff they really have
It's
to
happening
think
in
about.
reality. Yeah, man. No, and nice. I'm going to come back to the thought. Which we discussed, that everybody's calling them different names. So when it initially, these were all virtual worlds, when we started building it, way back in early 2000. But now with Meta, everybody started calling them Metaverse. So Apple came out because obviously, they are too huge to be, copying the same name. So they started calling everything spatial computing, right? And Microsoft is now calling it mesh. We'll come to that also a little bit, talk about what HoloLens, your
Microsoft
company, and
has they still call it mixed reality, but then they have
mixed
this
reality.
that their metaverse platform. They call it Microsoft Mesh, but they also don't use the term metaverse. They call it immersive collaboration.
Exactly. So don't you think that everybody trying to call, these using these different terms is going to complicate it for the audience? I mean, we guys are working in this tech,
Yeah,
right? So we are dealing with, for us,
yeah,
it's very easy to understand all of this. But for the
yeah.
regular consumer, who doesn't know
Yeah,
anything, so
it's
crazy.
definitely confusing. Microsoft came with HoloLens 1. I'm not sure,
Yeah,
it's just also 7 years ago already. I don't know, or eight. Time is really rushing. And then they coined that term mixed reality, because also Apple tried with Google Glasses very early to coin AR, and then the
yeah,
people didn't consider it a success. Then Microsoft had to come with a new term. They came with mixed reality, which also blends more virtual and mixed reality, what we see these days with pass through.
yeah.
They came with this, and then yeah, Meta came with Metaverse, but
Metaverse.
they meant also a little bit more. It had a little bit more content about hanging out in virtual worlds, a little bit more a social component. But 2 years ago it was the big Metaverse year. Last year it went down again, and so for sure, Apple needed their own term, and then they came with spatial computing. Actually, Microsoft used that term, I think, at the very beginning times of HoloLens 1, 2.
Hmm.
But yeah, let's say mixed reality and spatial computing are exactly the same, and both, are a little bit of intersection between VR and AR.
Oh yes, they are intersection, but the problem again is, it's going to be confusing. And I was just reading, like, just before getting into this podcast, I read some reviews, that people are returning, the Vision Pro. They're saying it's heavy, it's painful, the experience is not so good. I mean, I know it's very early. They just launched, what, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, probably a week ago, when they actually was, people could get hands on it. But suddenly, all these feedback is coming that their device is not, uh, how do I say it, a favorite enough. And have you read that report yet?
So for sure, LinkedIn timeline is full of reviews about the Apple Vision Pro, and yeah, and it's some like review like with the heavy and not so elegant with the cable and the power. And yeah, let's say that many people write also very good things, but they also
Hmm.
write things that are not so good. So
Not so good, yeah.
it's still at yeah, it getting interesting. If I hope it will help to to bring that business up again.
Oh, absolutely. See, Apple, I think, if they listen to the users, they would definitely, bring, a much lighter and a better and a cost effective version of it. And I personally feel, like, just from a point of view, that this would be the worst Vision Pro that Apple could have taken out, as in, in terms of what they will be able to generate and create, going forward.
So, by the way, at the end of my tour, I pick up the Apple Vision Pro. I ordered it to a friend working at DocuSign, and so
Hmm.
it is already there. But I'm still on my tour, and so I
Oh,
will pick it
yes.
up in the end, and then I can personally tell you. my opinion.
Yes, I would definitely reach out to you. I'll remember to ping you and ask what what do you think. But anyhow, let's come to the topic. Like, so what about Hololux? What does Hololux do? What are they doing? What are you guys achieving? Let's talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so we're really happy to work with some of the most vibrant customers worldwide. So we have customers, like Microsoft, Bayersdorf, or Porsche. So many of world famous brands. This and we also work very close with Microsoft. We are really partner very tight with them, and so we are working with a lot of Microsoft projects together with Microsoft, and so that also brings you a lot of insight working with the product group teams and what is coming next. And yeah, and that's really enjoyable.
I'm quite certain. So your focus is primarily in Hololux, primarily about Microsoft and building metaverses, building on Mesh, or do you take care of other
That's
platforms
yeah,
as well?
that's a good point. Yeah, so we build also on other platforms. We do a lot of projects also on Spatial IO, which we rather currently prefer for it's our preferred platform for B2C.
Hmm.
And if it's coming more to metaverse collaboration, then I think Mesh will he be clearly the lead. So, that's it's a topic we may discuss later. It's also because
Yes.
for enterprises to run really platforms like this, it needs to be secure and compliant, and this is where Microsoft has a huge advantage.
Advantage.
But we are also coming from our background. We also do a lot of larger Azure web applications, full stack development, and that's where we also infuse a lot of AI solutions with Open AI, Azure Open AI. So we are also doing things like this. But we've recently focused more and more on mixed reality, spatial computing, metaverse, however you call it.
Oh wow, interesting. So what exact? So you've been doing this for a long time, and Mesh and when Mesh launched, I was there during that live, and I saw you and some few other people from the Microsoft team and the other team, that you guys partnered with. I feel that the Mesh has the biggest advantage because Microsoft, as a parent company, already has a wider, huge, like a huge base of people who are using their enterprise solution, right? And integrating it with Teams, like my daughter's school use Teams, Microsoft Teams. They are the enterprise customer for Microsoft Teams. So for schools, schools, professionals, it's got to be very easy to migrate and start using Mesh. What do you think? Is
Yeah,
it?
so by the way, yeah, what you said is exactly they have around, I think they said recently the latest numbers, let's say around 215 million active users. And so actually the launch of Mesh was kind of the largest metaverse launch because it has a theoretically user base, a very large user base, yes.
So how many have you seen that? I'm not sure how much you are involved in that statistics part, but how many have already started using it?
So I for sure this is confidential at Microsoft. So I don't know how the usage numbers are.
Or
Personally, I
Mhm.
think it will be more slow growing. What I see recently as a general thing is AI is still top of mind of many people this year. And
Uh-huh.
Microsoft also has their big thing, Microsoft Copilot, and that OpenAI collaboration.
Hmm.
And if you talk with many customers, you see they plan millions investments in the topic of Copilot. And so currently, AI is definitely on the front seat, and the topic like mixed reality, metaverse, immersive collaboration is currently still more on the back seat because people really this year have a lot of invests in AI.
Yes. So with that, with AI, we may go a little off topic, but OpenAI launched Sora. Have you seen that? The outcome of what
Yes.
they are trying to. It's amazing.
Yeah, I saw it. That's definitely. I want to have it.
Yeah, right. I mean, oh, obviously they're giving it for testing for a lot of people. And I had just messaged today itself, the founder, CTO of Leonardo.ai. They are an AI platform creating, nice art as well as 3D textures, So when you put in a 3D model, they'll give you nice textures. So I just reached out to there, we've been connected for some time to come on our podcast as well. Because see the way it is going, with Sora, and lot of, it's going to change the dynamic of how people do things, especially when you want to create metaverses. You create a prompt, get the mesh, and then modify it, and then put it on a platform, right?
Yeah,
Do you see
it's
that
a
happening?
very good point. Yeah. Yeah, so what you say is an absolute valid point. So even it looks like the metaverse and AI looks now a little bit like a metaverse killer. Actually, in the end, it will
Yes.
be an enabler because, like you said, if we see what a lot of effort is 3D content production.
Yeah.
It can takes really a while if you make that on a triple A level or something. This is really, yeah, it's quite expensive doing this. And it's also hard for people to do. And if you tell AI, hey, I need a chair here, I need this there, I need that there, and in the Microsoft announcement from Satya Nadella, I think it was in November on the Ignite,
Hmm.
they also already show their vision that you in Mesh that you have your also Microsoft Copilot integrated in Mesh, and that you change the environment, it spawns a jukebox or something like this. So these features are still not ready, but you see they are clearly important part of the product vision.
Oh yes, absolutely. There's going to be great roadmap. So let's cut to the basics. What is metaverse? How do you define it? Because everybody has a different
Yeah,
definition,
yeah, I am
right?
100% sure.
Right. So what is metaverse for you?
Yeah, so for me, metaverse is the next. I think that is the part where everybody somehow agrees on that it's kind of the next evolution or maybe revolution of the internet. And I think it means actually that internet, which is also very vast word because we're using Zoom. This is all not Zoom. We're using your StreamYard, LinkedIn's live streaming and things like this. This is all part of the internet. And what I mean is it will become 3D and immersive. So the internet will not stay flat on our screen. It will pops out, and it will be normal for companies to have virtual showrooms and virtual experiences instead of just homepages. So everything what is now 2D in the internet will eventually become 3D, and we can really experience that immersive. So there are also some. I think that technologies like spatial computing, mixed reality are very important to make that vision true. Some people think it is not necessary for what you call metaverse. That can only be just 2D. I think it's important that it's 3D because that feeling of social presence and everything. I think that makes the big difference. And it's important. But on the other side, I also think it's very important that you include also the 2D world because you might have people that cannot see 3D. You have blind people, whatever. So I think for every new technology, it's always important that they integrate somehow the previous one. So for me, it's basically a immersive version, a 3D immersive version of the internet, which is internet is everything we power with TCP, I believe.
Oh yes, absolutely. See, the thing is that you see, we say that we're in the Web 3 world right now, but you cannot essentially let go of Web 1 and Web 2. They will continue to coexist. And when we go into much more spatial and everything, I think all these technologies, one will not go away. They'll all merge into the other with a combination. It's like fusion food, right? That you have certain values of every vegetable or every spice to give you a very nice flavor. I think that is what Web 3 and metaverse and like probably I mean, just imagine 20 years down the line you have Web 16 or whatever, just a random number. What would that look like? Because we are all talking about future here, which is kind of now. There's nothing in. See,
Yeah,
is
that's
we say,
hard
okay,
to
AI
hard to
do
imagine.
this, right?
Maybe the next thing is then what Elon Musk is doing with the brain interfaces.
Yes. Yeah. So I was talking to around that, in one of the groups that because it's going to be essentially a chip, right? Somebody can hack it, and once somebody can hack it, they can actually define, what that person does, right? So it's good, with health benefits with a lot of people who can walk, who cannot take, and there are certain challenges which with this chip can work. But there are a lot of other sides as well around data security and stuff which
Yeah,
would which need to be
yeah.
taken care of.
Yes. Yeah, it's
right?
somehow always a two-edged sword, the technology. You see also things uh, like let's say atomic nuclear plants or something. They can
Yes.
bring a lot of energy. Let's say it's something good, and actually it's not so bad for the environment.
Mm.
On the other side, you can build bombs with it, what is actually not so good. So I think technologies have always this saying, but in an easy thing, you can always abuse it. You have in every cantina, you have a knife and fork, and I could take it and
Yes.
so
Yes.
it's also a weapon. So it
Yeah.
depends how you use it. But for sure, there is definitely a huge risk. And the next
Great.
what I also see coming now in this, the next thing is really deepfake. I think this is something we will see now very often. Microsoft launched also Azure text to speech avatars, and you can also create
Hmm.
your own deepfakes of people. And I think this gets tough, if the people then really make calls as deepfake and with neural voice and it, and you will on the other side you will see evolving security programs that then try to recognize deepfakes. So it's always this balance.
Oh yes, absolutely. See, the thing is that I mean, I'm not sure if you know about it, but there was, I think, somewhere in Hong Kong or some other country, there was a hack of about $25 million, where there was a deepfake of the
Ah,
CFO,
I read that.
right?
That was in Hong Kong, yeah.
It's crazy, $25 million with a deepfake. So how it all comes down to metaverse is, it's something that we can obviously talk, how our avatars can be beneficial. Our copies or virtual copies can actually go ahead and do it. So before that, I'm going to ask you a technical question, because since you are the CTO, what are the technologies underpinning, like beneath this whole web of metaverse? What are the technologies that you guys work with, or like in general?
Yeah, sure. So let's say we prefer Unity 3D as an engine because Microsoft Mesh is powered by Unity 3D. We can use it for spatial I/O, and it makes us also a little bit flexible. I think Unity 3D is good in building high-end cross-platform things. Um, and if you build something for spatial and the customer say, hey, later on I want to go to Mesh, I don't have too much effort to migrate things. So we like Unity. I did, personally, I like also web technologies with WebXR and things like this. But I see adoption here really hard, and I tried recently. I want to try it again, and I tried it, and I see it's hard even to open the URL. You can from your phone you can click then on open in MetaQuest, and you open this, and the performance is really bad even with simple things. So I think currently WebXR is still very, how to say, very early. And I'm not sure if you saw that also. I think it's Mozilla Hubs. They announced that they shut down the service, which is also, let's say, a drawback for the WebXR space, because I think it was the only really bigger platform that really focused mainly on pure web technology. So we
Interesting.
use
So
mostly
yeah,
Unity 3D.
yeah, so Unity is great, because we also internally, use Unity 3D itself, for the customers and spatial and everything. But I think the overall quality comes with pixel streaming, and that's where you use Unreal. I mean, obviously the audience is very different for both, and the costs are also very different, right? So so how do you see Unreal or pixel streaming type of quality becoming the norm?
Yeah, so in general, for sure, this is really great because you can achieve a much higher rendering quality. On the other side, the drawback of this technology is GPU is expensive. It's really kind of the new gold. And if you want, it's even not cheap to host a Metaverse platform because every byte, going through the wire, somebody want to have money for this, and so even a normal Metaverse platform hosting on a large scale is not expensive. It's hard to make money with. And if you do pixel streaming and you need a lot of server render power, this is quality wise great, but it's quite expensive. So this is a little bit the drawback of this.
So, do you think so? Yeah. So, I mean, we've done some calculation. So, it's turned out to be somewhere around $1.5 per
Mhm.
user per hour. So, if you have about 1,000 people at the same time, you end up spending between $1,000 to $1,500 per hour. just for giving everybody that great experience. But
Yeah,
what
so
is
you
the
see,
yeah,
imagine
go
that's
ahead.
not so cheap.
Yeah, that's
If
not
you
so
want
cheap
to
at
make
all.
that on a big scale, imagine Spatial would use this and have thousands
Yeah.
of users, and then only three user pay or something. I think they would not cannot make that long. So there are really good things what you can do with it. Also in engineering or something, when you nearly need high power quality, but you don't need millions of users using it. I think this
Yes.
is, and then let's see how that evolve over time. But currently, GPU is quite expensive.
Oh yes. And so how is the perception of big customers? Because are they okay? Because normally, the ones who pay the most expect highest quality, right? So how would you really convince them, that okay, with the budget that you're saying, even then, like you think it's high, $100,000, but it doesn't really, pixel streaming cannot really work there.
Again, the question. What was the question again?
I I'm saying that, like, how does these big customers
Mhm.
respond when you say that, okay, we'll go with the Unity and we'll go with, this is what you're going to build, but the quality is not going to be, there's going to be difference in quality when you do pixel streaming, which is like real time shading versus what we stream in Unity. So how do you convince them? Because they'll have to eventually, even after spending so much, be willing to, accept what is being delivered.
Yeah, yeah, I understand, I agree. So what we usually do, and that's maybe also why I travel around, is I think people really have to try it. So you have to really put on your glasses and see the difference and feel that and see this. It's not something you can just talk about it, you know. It's something you never see the color red or smelled a certain flower and then you try to explain that to somebody. This doesn't work. So I think you have to try it. And this is why I also have some devices with me. I go tomorrow maybe here in Bangkok in a Web3 meeting, by the way, and then
Oh,
I bring also
nice.
my glasses, you know, and then maybe people can try. And I think it's very important. And I also visit the customers and let them try. Yeah, as you said, because they can really not imagine. They have to see this.
Oh, fantastic. So if you're going for an event tomorrow, let share the details because I'm part of some of the groups in Southeast Asia and I'm going to tell everybody, so they can come and meet you there wherever you may be. Fantastic. I think that's a very, very good way of, doing things. Okay. So now let's come back, like now that you have this experience of mesh launching. And so how was your personal experience working with the Microsoft team? You've been working with them for, like for some time now, but
Yeah,
for this
yeah.
particular mesh launch, how's it?
So
Crazy,
yeah, yeah,
smooth?
as you said, yeah, I worked with Microsoft quite a while. Yeah, so you see, I'm a Microsoft MVP for 14 years, and let's say
Yes.
now it's kind of in the 15 years. So I worked with them quite long. So in general, this is what I really like always working with Microsoft is that they somehow always take all somehow care of their partners. You know, there were many situations when new technologies come and this partner is saying, "Oh my God, is that service that you need is it still needed?" But Microsoft always found a good way to integrate the partners, and they really work close together with you with the customers. It's a very personal contact somehow if you work with Microsoft email. It's a large organization. And yeah, the mesh launch that worked quite well. So I did after, you know, after the official launch where I was one of the invited experts. After that, we did a community launch party to allow the people to get directly immersed. There were some glitches with broadcasting, but in general, it was yeah, it was quite fun. And that experience that we built, I'm also very happy with that. It's called the Neon Planet, and we put a lot of artwork in it. And we even want to try to show, not sure if people saw that, but we try to make a different style. Currently, when you look in that space in the metaverse, you see most is mainly focused on stylized, but we try to make use much more reflections, which looks a little bit, I don't know, more fancy because I also think stylized, talking about art, I don't think it will be also the end of the journey. Like you said, with pixel
Yes.
streaming,
Yes.
stylized is also a little bit, you know, a workaround because the limitations.
Interesting. Oh yes, I think the way the evolution it's going right now, I will see that a lot of things will be achieved by AI, but the creative would still be challenged. So AI will be challenged by creative people. AI will be challenged by people who have a good thought process. People who want to go deep. They go vertical instead of going horizontal. So
But
there's
by
got
the
to be a
way,
lot of stuff there.
we use Midjourney or something like this for making tileable textures, seamless textures. We in some project there are already some tools where you can create sky maps.
Oh,
But
nice.
the really high end things we see we still have to do it ourselves. So it's more a supporting tool for now. It cannot really, if you want to really a very professional level, you cannot just use it alone, but you can definitely use it to make you more productive.
Oh, absolutely. You need to use texture baking, to make sure the mesh is lighter. You got to use normal maps to make sure, you get the 3D spacing wherever
Sure.
possible, right? Interesting. So, okay. So, what do you think, now that you've launched it, it's launched, what do you think, in your opinion and experience, the advantages Mesh has over other platforms?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in general, if people now try mesh, so there was also like a little bit like spatial, many people tried it, that the functionality for now seems for many people at a certain point a little basic because they launched it, let's say, yeah, in a as a minimal viable product to bring it fast to the customers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the big advantage of Microsoft Mesh is it is really built, and that's why it took a while. It's built really with compliance and security in mind. So we had some projects in Germany which they wanted to use spatial, but they couldn't because of EU GDPR. And we work with a lot of larger enterprises. And in the end of the day, this is a new communication technology. That's why Microsoft integrated in Teams. It's a next level of communication technologies, and so it's enterprise software like Teams, and it has exactly the same security and compliance, which is also partially regulated by by some standards like ISO 27001 and things like this. And so you need a compliant platform. If not, you cannot use it. You can play around, but you cannot really use it. So this is a super advantage. And then another one, everybody, I had a lot of interviews with people in the product group. I was there on the public preview launch. I was in Redmond and I had a lot of interviews. And everybody in the product group, or most of the people I talked with, said completely separately. They said, oh, they see the GA and everything. This is the general available for people if they don't know it. It's not a too big thing because they see it not at the end of the journey, they see it at the beginning. And this is also a big difference to other platforms. I had a discussion with another influencer, and they say, "Oh, everybody have big visions for his tool, or is are more at the beginning of the journey." But the difference is, I think, rather many of the metaverse platforms that we see, they are at the end of the journey because it's really hard to get investment in that money. AI takes so much attention; all the
Yes.
attention goes to AI, and metaverse have the backseat. And so many of the platforms will not be able to finance that. And we will, and Mozilla HubSpot is now really just, I think it was today, yesterday, I'm not sure, but it's just an example of this because I see it costs a lot of money hosting it, but we cannot make revenue. And so that even Mozilla shut it down and many smaller platforms will go down. And Microsoft on the other side, they have quite a large team working on it. And they have, a
A lot
lot
of
of
money.
power to take that over many years.
Yeah. Yes, eventually, yeah, so it's always a good idea, right? So then I think the best thing would be to become a contributor in this Microsoft ecosystem, in terms of creation and but I don't think that's
So
going to be very easy.
yeah, so I'm convinced that Microsoft will take in that, there will most likely not be one metaverse. I think in the area, like like Microsoft Teams is one of or maybe even the strongest communication platform. I think Microsoft has the best chance to become immersive collaboration the number one, because also smart to to have it over Teams.
Oh yes, that was the very smart move. So my point was, when you guys were launching it, that the two smartest things that you guys have done is go on Unity, because Unity has about 50% share in the market in terms of developers available and stuff. Plus Teams is like all the enterprise customers can easily switch to using this mesh, and there you have wider user base without doing much, like in terms of you don't have to do customer acquisition. That has already been done for past 30 years,
Yeah, but you
right?
have on the other side, it's not so easy like it sounds. You have to
Yeah.
tell it's not so easy for people to see the real advantages and how they use that. Not everything that you can do in a in a immersive meeting is much better than you can do in a webcast or something like this.
Hmm.
So people have also to learn what works well. And it's also because the technology is still not in everything evolved. You don't, you know, for emotions. Face tracking, this is something Meta showed already with the Meta Quest Pro, but
Yes.
more like prototype. But this would is really important for this, you know, because if you make a face,
Yeah.
it makes a lot of your impression, and I think we will maybe see that in another year. But on the other side, things what we also did, you may didn't see that we made a winter wonderland. We called it Meshmas, and you know instead of Christmas, Meshmas, and we had a Christmas celebration in Mesh. And then, you know, with snow, and people could then build snowman. We said, especially, you know, maybe if you have an international team and they are in Delhi or something like this, they may never build a snowman. And then they could, you know, roll the
Sledge.
snowball and build that and assemble that. And we did that event. And also Microsoft did that celebration internally with us. And you had so many pictures where people laughing or videos where people really enjoyed it. And it's that, you know, you run around and then you bump in each other or see somebody doing something and you start talking and laughing, and that's how you meet new people. If you have a 2D meeting like
Yes. Like this.
with 20 30 people in, you will
Yeah.
not really meet the people. You have no chance to do this. And I think something like bringing people together is something that you cannot do with a Zooms meeting. But a 4 hour webcast where people just, you know, watch that, it's not a matter if you park your avatar and then watch that, or if you just watch it directly in 2D. It's not a big difference.
Oh yes, I get what you're saying, that you have to be in it to experience it. You just can't
Yeah,
be
you have to
like
begin
on the sidelines.
experience it. Yeah,
Yes.
and you have to experience it, and it should not be just a space. I always think it should be more experience. It should make people curious. It should make people talk. It should make people connect. It's more than just a space.
Fantastic. So what are the biggest tech challenges? Like we're obviously saying that it's all easy. It's not so easy for people to get in from a user point of view, but I'm sure there's a lot of challenges in terms of creation and platform point of view as well. So what are the biggest tech challenges in your opinion?
You mean in general or for Microsoft Mesh?
In general and Microsoft Mesh as well, like because we are on both sides. So let's take from both sides.
Yeah, in general, I think it's still also a lot of problem what the what the end devices of the people can actually render, and that they and still barely people have mixed reality devices. So it's even a double problem. Even the 2D experience, this is hard for people if they don't have a good GPU. And before
Yes.
GPU was rather something for gamers, or even for 2D it's hard. And then if you want to have the real advantage, when people really make it sense and say, "Wow, it feels amazing," this glasses, people don't have it. That's why we hope all that the Apple Vision Pro might bring a new a push to that thing. So I think definitely the lack of hardware is the largest challenge. Lack of hardware and GPU. There are also
Hmm.
other challenges. Actually, Metaverse had a lot of challenges because it's even you have enough GPU, it's more connections you have, and you have spatial audio. You need separated connections, and you have more and more connections, and
Yeah.
bringing them all together is also for the bandwidth. It's also super hard. So it needs also 5G or even faster technologies are necessary if you want to have. Let's say you want to host 100 or 1,000 people. Most of the
Yeah.
platforms they now Microsoft Mesh has currently per instance 16, Spatial have 50, and over this it's get really tough. Even 50 is tough, and so there's I think bandwidth and devices are one of the larger challenges, and there's also not enough. Let's say also content. That's also something that will now Apple will face is. But they had in the past good experience with this. Even the tool is good. If you don't find apps, it will
Yeah.
also not work.
Interesting. So essentially, it comes down to three things. One is the hardware. The second is the streaming. So hardware means GPU, CPU. Even the headset.
Yeah, synchronizing all of that movements and audio
Exactly.
connections separately.
And yeah, and how to handle that internally within one single GPU and a single stream. It's going to be a lot of challenge, right? And to make the hardware, especially when head-mounted devices, making it lighter, it's not going to be very easy.
Yeah,
right?
so the hardware wise, there are some challenges, and for AR, I think the biggest thing will be when they're really AR glasses and you just wear them and they look, like what Ray Benz is doing with Meta or something, when they
Yeah,
look like
yes, I
this,
was coming to that.
when they look
Exactly.
like this, and then you have everywhere, I don't know, your AI and here and this, then it will be definitely. So, and
Interesting.
many people
Yeah.
expected that Apple would rather come with something like this, but then you see, and I think they really tried hard, and then they came also with pass-through, which is just a transition technology if you want to have real AR. So
Yeah.
you see, it's very very challenging.
Oh, interesting. Yes, it is. It is. And with the spatial coming into the picture, and a lot of people trying to, and I think there's going to be a lot of smaller players which will pop up across the globe, right? Which will go ahead and try and challenge the status quo of hardware, ownership, so to say. There's a lot of people building in India. There's a lot of people building, I'm sure outside in Europe. We haven't heard many platforms coming out of Scandinavia, like Norway, Sweden, which have been primarily at the forefront
Mhm.
of technology, right? So yeah, I'm sure there must be something brewing up there, which is not probably publicly yet, and yeah, which is going to take things a little forward, is what I feel. So how do you see metaverse? Like we've discussed how it started, we've discussed how you guys are at the center of it. Where do you see it going 5 to 10 years from now? Will it still be called metaverse?
Well, most likely not. As I mentioned here, and most likely they will not call it metaverse. Maybe then it's
Yeah,
Matrix.
yeah. Interesting.
Then it's the
Matrix.
no.
Yeah.
It's really hard to say. If somebody would ask me, before when HoloLens 1 came, and I'm really not sure if it's 7 8 years. I never imagined that it would even take so long till we are here, and it's still not. So it's really hard. I think in the next years we need first the adoption, and I think this year, I think it gets a very tough year with a lot of consolidation in the area of metaverse, like we saw
Mm-hmm.
already now with Mozilla HubSpot. But I think
Yeah.
in next or in 2 years, I think it will come back again. But it's getting, I think this year gets a tough time for immersive collaboration. But I'm 100% sure. I cannot say 5 or 10 years. I'm 100% sure that this vision, however we call it, Matrix, Metaverse, however, I think it's very natural that it becomes true. Communication technologies are super important for humanity, for collaborating, connecting people globally. And it's a big difference if you really feel the presence of somebody. So it is very obvious that it will be, but it takes longer than I ever have thought.
Oh yes, but I think with Nvidia becoming one of the top most companies in terms of market share, I think it should happen soon because they are the
Yeah,
driving force behind the GPUs, right?
yeah, but they also, I think they earn the most actually currently with the AI hype. So they're also
Yes.
making the money. They, let's say, AI is the GPU is the gold, and they sell the shovel or something. I don't know. So they make a lot of they make a lot of money with that GPU thing.
Yes, and they're also coming with something called as Omniverse City, if I remember the name
Yes.
correctly, right?
No, they
So
they call it
the
Omniverse, and
yeah.
so if somebody interested can just say a few words about Omniverse. It's also a very big platform, and I think it has
Yeah.
currently a little bit more industrial focus. And what
Yes.
is really cool is they try, many people use different 3D tools, and they have something in the core, it's called Nucleus, and you can
Hmm.
work with, they use the Pixar USD format, Universal Scene Description format, and then they store it all in this. You can use Blender, you can use 3ds Max, and they try to bring all that different 2D content in one store. But I think it would be a whole podcast to discuss all that features that are in Omniverse. But it's not directly a metaverse platform. It's more, how
Enablement
to-
for 3D
yeah, more
generation
more and more
enablement.
enablement. Yeah, you can
Yes.
also simulate things, but not directly a metaverse platform.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So they are trying to focus for like students community because who wants to create. Because I teach, like with my passion, I teach 3D Max at a university as an institute. There's a guest faculty. So when you're trying to do with those tools, Max, Blender, Maya, which is obviously not too
Yeah, so
much
they try to
used
also
there right now.
streamline this. And also very
Exactly.
interesting the simulation things because it's also a big topic, having that's where digital twins are really interesting. You can
Yes.
train AI on this. We did that with some customers. If you try to make all that pictures yourself, it takes super long. We have sometimes very secure areas where people we need pictures. It's hard to make them in that what you need. And then we build that really virtually, but in a very, very high render quality. And then you use that virtual training data to train the AI. And this goes so much faster. It can produce thousands or millions of pictures, which usually would take I don't know how long. So it is also a very, very big topic. And this is also
Oh,
something
absolutely.
Omniverse is focused in.
Oh, so so what everybody has done is they picked up different battles, different sides of the battle. Instead of everybody fighting into the same for the same pie, they've tried to build their own pies and then sell it very effectively. So going forward, like since we're talking about future, where do you see interoperability coming in within different metaverse platforms? Because essentially metaverse should be one, right? And then you have all these small spaces within them, teams mesh playing one, spatial computing playing one part, spatial platform playing another part, pixel streaming playing another part, and they're all coming under same umbrella. And you as the user has the option of going from one to the other easily. Do you see that happening or no?
No, I currently don't see that for the next few years. I think everybody tries to, in the end, everybody also wants to make a little bit revenue, and it's somehow also understandable that they want to do this. So I don't see currently the focus on that. So I see also announcements from Meta and Microsoft that they say, hey, you can integrate the avatars here and there. I see a little bit like this, but I don't think it will be like, you just jump back and forth. The most promising thing that I saw is actually a Ready Player Me. I think they powered many platforms. I think it was a nice example how you maybe could even bring in your avatar. But you see, for example, Meta Horizon used then their own, and Microsoft Mesh used then their own. I think we it's I don't think we will see that. It's a little bit like now some people use Google Docs
Yeah.
or Google collaboration, and other people use Microsoft.
Microsoft?
That
Yes.
let's
They're
say
not
it's
going to merge.
somehow you can let's say you can use TCP/IP and internet communication to go into that thing, but I don't see
Yes.
that it
They
seamlessly
will
goes
they will merge,
together.
right?
Yeah.
So the ideal metaverse is very difficult to find and exist, is what
Yeah,
I'm
let's say there
seeing.
will be definitely many metaverse. There's the Microsoft metaverse, there's the Horizon metaverse, maybe some others.
Yeah. Cool. So what are the security and privacy concerns that you see, coming out of, all these things, platforms coming up with their individuality and, trying to, how do I say it, trying to expand how person to person communication evolves. So what are the
Yeah.
security and privacy concerns you see?
Yeah, let's say there are two levels. I think currently most of the people have already problem with the basic things that we know already from everything. That you have secure encrypted communication, um, that you have things like this, that you have this, in especially in the European Union, very important that you have this data protection, EU GDPR compliant things, and so this is the basic level, and then complete new things will come, like you said, and I think. It's a topic that we will see in the future much more. What will happen, but especially with things like face tracking and movement data, and you can be for sure 100% observed in that virtual room that you walk through. Most of the things I see are currently focusing more on bringing that basic level of the communication platforms, like for example Microsoft Teams. But there will be many other things, like you said with that deepfake already. If later the avatars look like this, somebody hijacked that. We go to a meeting, and then you saw what happened in Hong Kong with the deepfake. So it will also, let's say, it gives a lot of potential again for the security industry because they have also to check things like this.
Oh yes. So it's going to be very challenging, like for a lot of. So what I also see is that as an opportunity for a lot of companies, especially who are in data security, privacy, to evolve their services on, how to differentiate between a deep fake, how to differentiate between, voice modulation, which is like not the original voice, but somebody's trying to create that, right? And yeah, and then we have a question, and we have a lot of comments as well. I'm going to read them out because we're already around 55 minutes. So Christine says, what is the best, safest platform for communicating and gathering for a family event?
The safest platform is
Your
hard to
drawing room?
say.
Your drawing room, your house is the safest
Yeah,
platform?
let's say, uh, actually, I did a family festival. Indeed, I did that 2 years ago. I think I did that in Allspace VR, which was the predecessor of Microsoft Mesh, because my daughter, there was COVID, and we weren't together then at New Year's Eve, and then I made a New Year's Eve Allspace party, which I opened actually for everyone, but my daughter was also there, and
Yeah.
it's quite fun. So safest is a complicated word because if I talk about if you're European, most of the platforms are not EU GDPR compliant, so safe is a little bit complicated. So personally, I really think Spatial is a good, super easy, accessible platform, which is very good for easy start because you just need a browser. I
Yeah.
think this is I think Spatial could be a good choice.
Fantastic. So there you have it, Christine. You have your answer. And cool. I'm going to read out some comments.
So
Christian.
maybe you can
Uh,
also put the spatial.io is that link. So I think this is quite easy to use.
yeah, spatial, fantastic. Yes, it is. It is very easy. And we also recommend, as a for customers who want to get in for the first time to try and experience it.
Yeah,
Right.
so
So we
they
had
have mobile client, they have web client, they have the MetaQuest. So I think if you
yes,
want to start easy and really easy accessible, I think it's a good platform.
fantastic. And we have Laura, saying amazing info, guys. So thank you, Laura. For some reason, I could not show your comment directly on stream, but I'm going to read out. And then we had a good comment from Chris. He says that this sounds really exciting. Looking forward to the deep dive into the metaverse, NFTs, and potential impact of Microsoft Mesh on the future of business. I think we have discussed that quite a bit, right? On the future of business, how Microsoft is going to impact. Maybe a last question, before we head into sort of a rapid fire. What is the investor's point of view about current projects? I know you mentioned that everybody's going with AI right now, but yeah, like in a broader view. So, what percentage would you say out of 10 projects they're going to invest in two metaverse projects, eight AI projects? What is your experience say?
So you mean in investors investing that topic or what customers are want to invest in this?
The customers who are investing, trying to build different metaverse platforms, because right now, I mean, from a personal point of view, we are seeing a lot of people interested in creating metaverse platform from B2B point of view, or some going B2C as well. What is your take on that?
So I still don't get it exactly. You want to know building our own metaverse platform, or if
Yes.
customers are willing to invest in experiences and introduce metaverse into the companies.
Yeah, so
So which
yeah,
one you
the
mean?
second one, the second one.
So yeah, I see the customers are, as I said at the beginning, they're very careful with investment in that area because AI is they really I see really customers are even scared that they miss something through this super huge AI hype. And as I said, imagine I can only make it with a Microsoft example, but it's for other things the same, similar pricing for ChatGPT, OpenAI, or something. Many people have a Microsoft collaboration platform. Let's say they also paid $30 for the whole collaboration platform, and now they should
Hmm.
pay, let's say, for 100,000 user, and then you buy Copilot for them, that AI tool from Microsoft, and then you pay another $30 per user, and then you have per month, and then you have 100,000 uh, user per month,
User.
$30, and this is a huge, super really huge invest, and customers are really a little bit scared that they miss something in AI, and then they see there's a lot of invest. So I really see that it's not that they don't invest in that metaverse thing totally, but they have my feeling is they have this year not the highest budget for that topic because they have this very high amounts to invest in AI technologies. So this is for now my feeling, as I said already. I think in general means if you're running your own platform, I think it get tough for you to find investor to finance that. And
Yes.
on the other side, if you're agency, I think I cannot talk for India. And by the way, I see most of the requests are coming actually from India. There seems to be on our website. It seems there be how to say India seems to be very metaverse interested. But in general, I think it's also for agency and everyone. It's get a rather tough year again because it is not AI is really too strong in the investment currently. We are
Yes.
in a lucky position that that we work very close with Microsoft, and for sure there are also large customers that won't invest in that. But as I said, I
Mhm.
think it will be a challenging year. But to everyone, I think, yeah, you have to go through this. I'm pretty sure next year, I think it will get better again.
Fantastic. I think on that note, on a positive note, we can pretty much say sum it up. It's been a fantastic, Christian, and we've had a lot of people asking questions, joining in, and yeah. So I want to again say first of all, thank you to the viewers who joined in, asked their questions, and Christian for coming in. It's been an amazing, amazing discussion. I want to go on for another hour, to go and talk about NVIDIA Omniverse and spatial computing in different words, but then I think that's for some other day. Your last thoughts
Yeah,
before we leave?
Omniverse could be interesting. Yeah. So yeah, thanks you very much for inviting me. I enjoyed to talk with you, and I hope our audience did as well.
Fantastic. I am going to just take you backstage for a minute and say bye to my audience. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining in. And yeah, see you guys in the next episode. Again, we trying to get a very, very deep, insightful conversation with the next guest. So keep following me on. I think I've spoken a lot. Keep following me on LinkedIn and subscribe so that you guys can keep yourself informed. All right. So thank you very much, and we will say bye bye.